SSH Tunnelling. What is SSH? Secure Shell is a protocol that runs on port 22 to ensure secure data communication between two systems. This secure data communication is achieved by establishing an encrypted channel called an SSH tunnel. The process of creating the channel is known as SSH Tunnelling. Let's see how an attacker makes use of SSH Tunnelling to mask his identity. Consider this. An attacker is trying to access a server called whatismyip from his browser. When a request is initiated from the browser, the traffic is directed to port 80 and uses the gateway IP of the system or the network to reach the destination server, whatismyip. When the whatismyip server receives the request, it enumerates the source IP as the attacker's IP. In order to route the browser's traffic via a remote server using SSH Tunnelling, the attacker creates an account on a remote server which renders shell services. Once an account is created, then with two simple steps, an SSH tunnel can be established between the attacker's browser and the remote server by configuring the browser and a shell client application, for example, PuTTY. Step 1. Rerouting browser traffic. The normal browser traffic routed via the gateway should be rerouted via a proxy server. This can be done by configuring the browser by choosing the option Use Proxy Server for your LAN to use SOCKS proxy. The LAN is then configured to use loopback IP 127.0.0.1 via port 8080, an alternative port for port 80 as a source port. Step 2. Bridging client and server. Creating a bridge between the client's port as the source port and the remote server port as the destination port can be done using an SSH client application, such as PuTTY. The configuration of PuTTY is done by entering the settings pertaining to the remote server that requires the name of the remote server, for example shell.cjb.net, the port on the remote server to which the traffic has to be forwarded, that is 22, the connection type pertaining to the port, that is SSH, and the name for these configurations, for example test. Settings pertaining to the client requires the source port, which is configured as 8080 in the browser, and the type of connection is set to dynamic, which tunnels all traffic to remote destinations via this port. Having set the source and destination, the remote server account can be accessed via PuTTY by providing the correct login credentials. Upon successful login, an SSH tunnel will be established between the attacker's browser and the remote server. When the attacker initiates a request to whatismyip server, the traffic gets routed to the loopback address on port 8080, which is now connected with port 22 on the remote server. When the whatismyip server receives the request, it enumerates the source IP as the proxy's IP instead of the attacker's IP. This is how an attacker masks his identity using SSH tunneling.